I mean, it's nearly bullying, isn't it? I mean, what Bayern is doing in the Bundesliga right now.
Harry Kane, Luis Diaz, Michael Olise. You just put Bishop, you put Leonard Carl in. You don't even start Harry Kane. I mean, that's why you bring in Nicholas Jackson as well, I suppose. But nonetheless, how the tides have turned. Hi and welcome to the Fußball channel. I'm your host Marcus Fjørtoft, and as always joined by Jan Fjørtoft for this Bundesliga review. I've got a bit of a temporary setup as I've moved places, so hence the lack of backdrop. But good to be back discussing Bundesliga. Give us a little update as to what you've been up to.
Well, unbelievable. 2 weekends in a row being in Norway. Although I worked this weekend, last weekend I had a wedding off. I went to my hometown and we had a wedding with my cousin Elise. But this weekend I've been in the studio. So the good thing about it, well, it starts with a good thing is that you can follow every league. I mean, it's unbelievable because you are in at midday and you go home midnight. So you follow every league. It's unbelievable. So for that is good. It's a bit tiring. It's a long day, but and I did more or less the same on a Sunday. But as always, funny to watch the German Bundesliga, and I don't know where you want to start, Marcus. But if we start at the top with Bayern going into a game against Leverkusen, it used to be the big game. Leverkusen coming there 37 games away from home without losing. And this is the team that took Bayern down from the throne. And what did Bayern do? They play a B team. I mean, I was just before we went on, Marcus, I saw who was on the bench with Díaz, Kane, and Olise, Upamecano. Upamecano didn't even get on. And they kind of just sorted it out in the first half. I mean, it's nearly bullying, isn't it? I mean, what Bayern is doing in the Bundesliga right now. 9 games, 27 points, 5 games. Sorry, 5 points ahead of Leipzig, who they beat in the first game. And all respect to Leipzig coming back from that debacle, 6-0. So is Bayern in Germany right now? What a surprise!
Harry Kane, Luis Diaz, Michael Olise. You just put Bishop, you put Leonard Carl in. You don't even start Harry Kane. I mean, that's why you bring in Nicholas Jackson as well, I suppose. But nonetheless, how the tides have turned. That it was, but Leverkusen Bayern were like the matchup. Well, we have to just go a season back when Bayern were trying to regain their title, and here we are, them really resting their team for the first proper time at home against Leverkusen, who you said had a unbeaten run of 37 games away as well. Yeah, what do we make of that? Is that a proof of maybe Bayern's depth that we were also a bit worried about going into the season, that you can actually now play a team against Leverkusen, who will more than likely fight for Champions League spots, and still you win 3-0? Are they proving our point wrong, so to speak, in terms of our worries going into this season?
So far they have. I mean, but the big games will still come up for them. Now talking about PSG, we're doing a double decker this week with a Champions League preview as well, Marcus, and we'll discuss that more there. But they beat Chelsea. I mean, they beat Chelsea. They beat Brugge. They beat Paphos. I mean, but they've also beaten Leverkusen, Dortmund. Dortmund has been doing well in the Champions League, so they're well off in terms of quality, showing that so far so good. And mind you, Davis is out, Musiala is out, both fixed starters in a top Bayern 11, but it just starting 11. But I just feel the way it's going there now. It's like a train. They're just doing things the right way. They don't make too many emotions. There's not a lot of reactions. There are actions. And I mean, I think Kompany surprised some people by doing that, because if you, for example, compare it with Liverpool winning against Aston Villa this weekend, but they put out a C team against Crystal Palace, knowing, of course, this week they are playing Real Madrid. So Kompany do the other way, and that shows you something, because the priority at Bayern is always to win the double, and they haven't had that Pokal triumph now for some years. So they prioritized that game in Cologne, a game that was also quite interesting. But Cologne was 1-0 up. They played quite well, and then ending up, was it 4-1 at the end?
Yeah.
Bayern won away from home against the high-flying Cologne, who beat HSV this weekend. So it just shows you that everything is in order. The leadership of Kompany makes this a very stable ship. But to your answer, is it broad enough? I don't think we know yet. It is broad enough to be fantastic in the Bundesliga, which is a measure. But I don't think that will be the end of the year, Marcus, because we'll see. I mean, they will win the Bundesliga. They will probably win the cup as well. But the big test for them is the Champions League, as it always is for big teams like Bayern.
And for, let's call it the challenger, so to speak, we have then RB Leipzig and we have Dortmund. And RB Leipzig, since that 6-0 thrashing, that first match day against Bayern, they only dropped 2 points since then, had a draw. But then they beat a Stuttgart, who's been on a 5-game winning streak, in no small part to Yan Diomande, the 18-year-old who, when we had our Bundesliga preview, a lot of our Bundesliga experts brought to our attention in terms of his potential. Came in, forced an own goal, had a superb goal himself as well. And under Ole Werner, that RB Leipzig find themselves with an identity. I think despite having Xavi Simons, Šeško, etc., Openda, what have you, they now find themselves an identity, and there's a real enthusiasm around the team and the type of profiles they have.
And when you then, I say it again, starting the season with 6-0 by Bayern, not only, I mean, it was Bayern, yes, but still, they looked lost. And Werner, as it is in the media world of 2025, but is always in Germany with all the media outlets. I mean, he was under pressure for day one, and people was thinking, why did they get him there? And all. And we were joking. Jurgen Klopp, who is the head of Red Bull, the corporation, of course, in terms of football, they were making jokes of him, and he's probably not there. I mean, he's definitely there now. I mean, they've got Werner in. It's a very good, valid point for you. This is the identity that Leipzig want. This is a club built on identity more than a lot of the other teams, because young, quick players going for it with Ralf Rangnick and what have you of those in that school of coaches. So very impressed about Leipzig at the moment. And I mean, they're playing in a Rückrunde. They're playing then the first game. They're playing Bayern at home. So maybe if we look for some sign of excitement, maybe if they can stay 5 points or less, of course, then maybe there could be a bit of excitement in the Bundesliga.
And just to mention there with Yan Diomande, it's a bit of the profile that RB Leipzig find themselves with, but he's 18 years old and they bring him from Leganes. And Yan Diomande played high school in the US, went on a trial to Rangers, wouldn't quite work out. Leganes take a little gamble, and he doesn't have that many games to his name at Leganes either. Goes to RB Leipzig, plays Bayern the first game, is subbed off at halftime, and then we see still a very young lad make a little return. It's not easy when you find yourself in a new league, and now finding himself in blistering form. Had a great game now against Stuttgart, had a great game against Augsburg the game before. And we touched upon it in the last episode as well, in terms of that trio there with Romelu in the middle. You have Nusa, you have Yan Diomande, you have Bakayoko, Baumgartner as well contributing with goals. You have a pretty exciting pack of players there. And with the form that RB Leipzig are in, and Dortmund, Dad, under normal circumstances, this would have been a real fight for the league title. And I say under normal circumstances because these are exceptional circumstances in terms of how good Bayern are. They have won all 15 games of their season. But if we move then to Dortmund, that as well, and looking at the record that Dortmund have, they have 2 draws and a loss. I believe the one loss being against Bayern, RB Leipzig's loss being against Bayern. But Dortmund's record under Niko Kovac and the way 6 goals conceded after 9 games in the Bundesliga. It's the best defensive record in 23 years for Dortmund. 6 clean sheets in the Champions League. They only have a couple of losses under Kovac. I think it's actually only the Barcelona game that they've lost in the Champions League under Kovac, and we'll get to that in the preview. But the job that, put into context, that the job that Kovac is doing at Dortmund, and kind of the, not the title credentials, but at least the winning side, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think some of the criticism has been going his direction is very unfair. Yes, I'm biased because I like Niko Kovac. I got a good connection to him, but I think it's a bit like, when we were discussing English football, and Marcus, you're a gunner and you love your Arsenal, and I've turned a bit now because, like, for Arsenal, they use the tools they have in the box. I mean, fair enough, you use them, and I mean there is no rule against being set piece orientated, because we've known that since I played. I mean, I was a part of a Norwegian national team. We were very good at long throw-ins, good corners. Okay, I see the point that great teams gonna play great football, but please define great football for me. Let's start there. If Arteta will win the league and the Premier League, nobody would say, yeah, but there was a corner again at Burnley. Remember that Gyökeres? Maybe it was this and maybe it was that. Keep on going. Niko Kovac, let's not lose the sight of the job he has done. He took over a team that was just running around like sheep. Mm-hmm. He organized them, took them into a Champions League. Fantastic way he got them into Champions League. And as you were saying, he has gone on for that. I saw the game. I was live there when they beat Eintracht Frankfurt in the Pokal. Then on penalties, Eintracht, to be fair to them, they were a better team. And Dortmund saved. They had Guirassy. Guirassy scored a winner now against Augsburg, away from home this weekend. So they had him on the bench. They made some changes, but they have a good bench as well. I mean, if you've seen it, they got a quite broad squad there. And what Kovac has done is that he has taken away that thing. And I said that to Kovac as well when I had him after the game. I said to him, what's impressed me is that he made a balance in the kind of mentally capability. Yeah. And because when Dortmund used to have, when they used to struggle before, suddenly 5 or 6 players were gone. Now they got a different team. They got more leaders in there. They got different kind of mentality in that team. And then you had the small thing like when Ryerson come on the right side, he has a fantastic attitude, by the way. And then Brandt comes in there, scores from there. Before this Augsburg game, they had two of that combination in 3 games. Fantastic, these hard crosses in. Brandt turning up there, he looks better as well. So I don't like that. I mean, he has done what he's come to do, and the rest is, for me, just lack of seeing the whole picture, in my opinion. Dortmund is doing very well, and Kovac need to get the honor for that.
Exactly, and winning against Augsburg, when you then play City in the Champions League, and you do without Schlotterbeck, you do without Ryerson starting, Ben Sebaini, etc. You got Guirassy scoring again. He's rotating the team well, and then it's a classic case. Well, then we're playing too boring or what have you. And we all remember when Dortmund played expansive and they were conceding goals for fun.
Absolutely.
And also, remind you, 11th spot is when Kovac took them over, and against all odds, qualified Dortmund to the Champions League to begin.
And you're going to go to Augsburg, whether you're under pressure. Sandro Wagner, there's a lot of criticism now in German media because, as we know, he's an outspoken guy. He doesn't hide his ambitions as a coach. Fair enough, but you have to win football games. And he said, I'm going to change the profile of this club. And I saw one headline that said, yes or no. It was the fans of Augsburg. They had a big poster behind the goal saying, "Yes, you managed to do that. You made us into a relegation team. So you have changed the profile of the club." So it's a tough business.
It is. I've been thinking a bit about it. I'm not too worried about Augsburg. I think we have to remember he's 9 league games into his managerial career. Really, he was in the lower
at
league.
the top level.
Yeah, at the top level. we can't expect people to hit the ground running of each young manager. It is a tough business. And for him
But
as a
in
young
our
coach,
time, Marcus, in 2025, you have to have success yesterday, and
I know,
that's
and
the
it's
thing.
tough when you're a young manager coming in, and also let alone turning around the fortune of
And a charisma manager,
yeah. But
charismatic.
I mean, turning around a club that is deemed a gray mouse, so to speak, and trying to make them expansive, that's gonna. They knew what they signed up for, and I think it's a bit naive to think that that would turn around like this. At the same time, football, as for all the intelligent business people and decision makers it brings in, football has a funny way of making you a tad bit irrational as well. So that's also
Absolutely,
the reality
absolutely.
of it. Just going into the other games then, Dad, we had Mainz play against Bremen. Mainz within minutes of their first home win of the season, but Bremen equalize late through Jens Stage. Mainz without a win or clean sheet at home in the Bundesliga since February. Union play Freiburg 0-0. Both failed to score in back-to-back Bundesliga games. Gladbach win against St.
What about
Pauli
Gladbach? What about Gladbach?
4-0, 4-0, and we're gonna make it less about how St. Pauli have to worry because that is a big loss at home. But wow, what a much needed win for Gladbach.
Tabakovic, 2 goals, which
Yeah,
is good. Is good. So I mean, this has been a club in turmoil. They have a coach out, head of sport out. Yes, the standard of St. Pauli is weak at the moment, but still to win 4-0 away from home can make wonders for them.
big win for them. Heidenheim, Eintracht that 1-1, pretty quiet first half. More chances in the second half. Heidenheim go up in the league through Zivi Vadze, and then
Rasmus Christensen again,
your friend,
scoring
yeah,
again. Yeah,
yeah.
he scored against Liverpool, the 1-0, losing 5-1 there. And in a cup game, remember, he's coming back from an injury. So he is tired and he has to keep on playing because he's so important for the team. And I spoke to Dino Topmüller about that, how important is it to have him on, and it is. And I mean, it's unbelievable. He done 3 games now in a week. And getting a goal, he's gold for this club, and we'll see now when they play Napoli if he get a rest or whatever they will do with him.
And I think that puts into context also the demands of the European schedule, especially when you got the Champions League as well, where in terms of points gained or lost during a season, when you're going to play a Heidenheim away, despite them being bottom of the table, when you're playing Napoli midweek, having to balance
Yeah.
that and constantly be at the top, then a 3 points becomes one against the Heidenheim. And I think that's for Eintracht now, who find themselves in the middle of the table. Plenty, of course, still to play for. Interesting types of teams that are around the European spots. It's no longer Freiburg, it's no longer Mainz. Eintracht's still around there, obviously, but after the top 4, top 5, you suddenly have Hoffenheim there. You suddenly have
Who
Köln.
won 3-2 at Augsburg? I think that. No, sorry, at Wolfsburg. That is the last game, if I'm not wrong, and it
Yeah,
was a great win for them. But what I want to say, Mark, is to sum it up, is a valid point you're doing, but it just shows you how important it is for the players to look after themselves. Because yes, injuries, but injuries are often. I mean, there are injuries who is not self-inflicted. I mean, you can get a knock or whatever. There is so coincidence, but you saw Erling Haaland this weekend. He scored 2, of course. Of course, he scored 2 all the time.
mm-hmm.
And then later in the evening, when I came home from the studio, he put out on social media him going into a cold bath in his house.
Yep.
Doing all the right things that you need to prepare for him then the next game, which is Dortmund. But he's doing that all the time, and I think that this is the demand of the modern footballer. It used to be as well, but they know more. And they know what they're going to do. There are more experts. There's a bigger staff around the clubs, and they have to look after themselves to kind of minimize the chances of getting injured. You can always get an injured, but you have to minimize the chances to get one.
Exactly. We will have a Champions League preview for those listening to this episode going into this week's game. We did mention Köln, worth mentioning that they beat Hamburg 4-1. Hamburg got 2 sending offs. Köln scored 3-1 and 4-1 after the 90th minute. Hamburg had their chances. They did impress in spells, but it was Köln who continue a very strong start to their Bundesliga season, 4-1 against Hamburg from the two promoted teams. That leaves us concluding.
So, just a second Bundesliga thing now.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that one in a while. Give us a little.
Now, because Hamburger Sportsman is up and we follow them, but Bochum with our friend Uwe Rössler has been having a great start. He won a game this weekend, and he beat Magdeburg. Yes, they are the worst team there, but he has been flying. Uwe Rössler since
Augsburg
he came
in the cup, don't forget.
Exactly, which was a big thing. So I think that is 3 wins in 3 now, if I'm not 100% wrong. But still, that's going to be the team we're going to follow now a bit in the Zweite Bundesliga. Uwe Rössler, I know him. I gave him his first job when he was at Lillestrøm. I remember Marcus struggled and everything, and the celebrations we had when he was there, and he's a good friend of yours as well, Marcus. So. Well, good to see Uwe coming from Danish football with Aarhus, and then now he's in Bochum. And mind you, Bochum is a great football club, being positioned there between Dortmund and Schalke in the Ruhrgebiet. So good to see that he's succeeding.
And that's the mandatory plug that we did have him as a guest under the Fußball Coach series. So worth checking that out, and we will add that at the end of this video. But for now, Dan, auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.